But Don had told me if it ever got up to 10 below, that he'd take me out and fly me over the project. He got up 10 below and I went into his office. We'll try it, no guarantees. He got his heaters out. He got me up in the air and we flew around for a little while.
And then as we got closer to the time of the auction, why then I came back up so we could both be at the land sale, and Don took me up. Also, he threw us over top of some land clearing that was going on at the time, and we got to see some bison. Somebody still don't know who it was, but that led up to the day of the auction. So March 13th, 1982, right here at the Delta School. Here's the brochure for land sale. They were going to sell 15 tracts of land that day. Frank Melby was the auctioneer. He was the future director of the Division of Ag, worked for DNR at the time. A big crowd of people in this room that day. Some of you may remember some of those faces. Al Bannon sitting closest to the camera, Glenn Franklin standing there, Ed Robio, Ed Kern, picture. People all there to conduct the land sale. And that's when we bought Track 5. The next day, we went out to Kurt Eaps' place. We thought maybe we better take a look at what we bought. So we got Kurt convinced to take us up in the plane.
Yeah, Kurt was gracious enough to get his plane going. It wasn't quite as cold then, so Mike jumped in with him and they got up in the air. And there's what we bought on the right-hand side of the dozer trail through the trees. That's where the road is now, the dozer trail, on the right-hand side of it. So, yeah, a little bit of work ahead of us. Once we got done with trying to get all that paperwork taken care of, buying a place, so then it was starting to figure out the contractor, and we went with Jerry Rimmer as our contractor to start clearing, and that meant start with surveying work. Here's Ozzie Jensen and former mayor of Delta, David W. Musgrove, and Jerry Rimmer in that picture, working at getting our survey lines cut in. Survey lines around the perimeter and then surveying all the windbreaks. And a picture of the anchor chain. Once the survey lines are done, they start chaining things down. And there's the rod broom rows making way for grain.
So, talking about markets a little bit, you'll hear more about markets as we work our way through this. So the markets that were available to new landowners that day, they talked about the red meat industry, slaughter facility had not been built yet, but it was going to be built. The dairy farms either were sold or were going to be sold. So we knew that dairy farms were coming at Point McKenzie. And then the export market. So the state was going to build a facility at Seward, and the city of Valdez, not to be outdone, passed a bond issue, went into debt so that they could build a facility in Valdez to handle the grain that was going to be produced here at Delta Junction. In 1983, Bill Sheffield becomes governor, January, and he promptly canceled construction of the Seward grain terminal. We still had the Valdez grain terminal. It still stands there today. I understand it has never handled so much as one truckload of grain, but it stands there. So we planted our 1983 crop.
Yeah, all the challenges that went with it, but we got our first crop in, and back then we didn't have any weeds to deal with, so summertime weed spraying. We got to our first crop and started in. Where remember it, we did our own drying, and I think the first September our grain bins showed up. So we got to assemble our grain bins and drying system and get the electrical all hooked up before we could start harvesting. Back in those years, we swathed some. In that last picture, while the swather was going, fields of green.
So summer we built buildings, we built grain bins. In years followed, we built more buildings. Back to the discussion about markets. All the grain sales were in-state. Straw sales became important to us. Cobuck Feed and Fuel was making dog food. They used hullus barley in that dog food they were making, so we did raise a certain amount of hullus barley for that purpose. And through the 80s, we marketed grain to whatever the market was. And I must say that, backing up just a little bit, when we grew that first crop, we got done harvesting in October, and we thought, well, it'd be nice to sell a load of grain. And we called everyone we could think of that might be a buyer. We couldn't sell one semi-load of grain. That's the way markets were at that time. So these pictures are just a straw baling because we found that straw was important to us as far as additional markets. So moving on then to the discussion of berm rows and land cleanup. We saw these berm rows as a big problem, and just like the guy that was talking about out on the bison range, they're working on berm rows out there. We had a whole bunch of these to get rid of. We didn't quite know how. Of course, everyone knew how to burn, so we did burning and consolidating, and that's where a lot of the cleanup work stopped there. It was hard to get rid of the rest of those berm rows. So how to complete the land clearing process, how to get rid of berm rows? Well, the solution was build some equipment. So we knew